So you do see like property taxes being an issue?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Well, the good news is we had a very mild winter, so the potholes in the community are not nearly as bad as what they normally are. And so people were actually captives in their own homes, but I'm tired of the state taking things away. It could be anywhere from $300 to $500 million before we're all done.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk. I'm your host, Kimberly Chavez, and today I have the great honor of welcoming a true Sioux City icon, Mayor Bob Scott. Born and raised right here in Sioux City, Mayor Scott graduated from East High School and went on to attend the University of South Dakota. He's a dedicated businessman, and he has proudly served Sioux City for over 20 years and recently made history by becoming the longest-serving mayor in Sioux City. Today, we're going to talk about leadership, the future of Sioux City, economic development, real estate, and so much more.
Glad to be here.
So you were born and raised in Sioux City, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what has been like the difference from then and now?
Well, I grew up in Morningside back in the 60s, and the community certainly wasn't as diverse as it is today, which I think is positive, not negative, but certainly that aspect has changed dramatically. We were probably, in Morningside, I don't remember going to school with any African-American kids at all, and very, very few Hispanic kids, the Beta kids. Their dad was a legend around here as a police officer. So the difference in the makeup of the community is much different, and I would say for the positive, quite frankly.
What do you think has been attracting people to come to Sioux City?
Well, I mean, we've always been a meatpacking town. Even when I was a kid, that's what this community does because of our location and because of the product that's close by. So obviously building Seaboard Triumph a few years ago had a major impact on more people coming to town for jobs.
Especially coming from states where everything is so expensive.
Yes.
I think there's like so many opportunities here too.
Yeah, people here complain about how high the houses are and relative to the rest of the world. You can still afford a house in Sioux City, Iowa. So I think that because those of us that have been here a long time have never seen this kind of escalation in house prices, we don't quite understand it. But still, if you go anywhere else, we're still not that high. So
yeah, compared to, and I understand that compared to how it used to be even 10 years ago. Do you think maybe the population has something to do with that too? Because I know there's like a lot more houses being built as well. The community is growing. There's more businesses coming to town. Do you think that plays a part in that too?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think we're growing. I don't know how you can build all these apartment houses that we built in the last 10 years and not grow because, if you put an apartment house up and it has 200 or 300 units, that's got to be 200 or 300 people that weren't here before because we're not tearing any houses down and we're still building houses. So I think, all the downtown housing that's developed over the last few years, like in this building and across the street and across the driveway, those units weren't here 10 years ago. So obviously there are more people coming to town. The problem I tell people is that we have a very migrant type population, and those individuals, especially under maybe the environment that we're in right now, don't want to take part in the census, and I understand that. So I think we didn't get a very good count in our community the last time.
Is there anything you think that would encourage people to participate in that?
Well, we do it all the time, and the Census Bureau, I think did probably as good a job as you can do, but that you have to have people that are newer Americans understand there's nothing wrong with taking part in a census. Now, I say that, and what's going on, I don't know that I would encourage people right now to necessarily do that, depending upon their status. But anyway, it's unfortunate that I think we don't really get a good count on our population.
That is why this podcast is important for me. Because sometimes I have noticed there's not that much information out there. So putting this on Facebook. It's important for people within our own community to have the right information so they can understand and they're not fearful of, things that they don't know. So
Right.
it's just very important to put this information out there for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
And small things like that. And I want to go back to like something you touched earlier, like transforming this building. I also have had clients, and I don't know, I really like this, that they have received letters from the city, that the city to them is very valuable to preserve like historic homes that are near downtown. And like you were saying, instead of like tearing apartments or houses down, building new ones, because actually I moved here from California around 10 or 15 years ago, and Sioux City wasn't like this in that time. It was still a lot smaller.
Well, the Lance Morgan, years ago, I was on the chamber board with him, the guy that did this building, or his company did, and he said that as you get more units in the downtown housing, then the people that are young people that don't have families yet, they still like being in the downtown area, and they'll little by little transform some of our neighborhoods to the north, which little by little is happening, not quite as fast as I would like it, but nothing ever happens quite as fast as I would like to see it. But at least you're seeing some of that. If you know anything about Omaha, the homes in South Omaha are being refurbished by young couples that want to be close to the downtown, but yet need a bigger place to stay because of family that might be growing. And so I'm hopeful that the same thing will happen here. We're seeing a little bit of that up in this area just north of here, and I hope we will continue to see that.
Yeah, I have seen that too. A lot of people are looking to see, because the older homes have way bigger bedrooms. Just the layout is perfect. You feel like you're in a Christmas movie too.
There you go.
Just like that. I'm also very curious if there are any other politicians or public servants in your family.
No.
No? What made you want to, get into this world?
I first got elected to the council back in 1985. I was sworn in 86. And if you don't know anything, obviously, at your age about that time frame in Sioux City, but we were really in a downhill cycle. There were 2,460 homes for sale the day I got elected.
The day you got elected.
And so, if you know, in the real estate business, that's quite an inventory for a city. And so people were actually captives in their own homes. The opposite's happened lately. And so it's more difficult for young people to buy because of what's going on. But it didn't matter if you had an opportunity or not to buy a home. It was difficult because the job security and those sort of things weren't all that great at that particular time. And so I just, pretty close to some union representatives, and they couldn't keep the people working like they wanted to. And they asked me to run, and I'd never thought about it. But, when I ran, I thought, well, worst case is I'll get my name out there for my business and go back home and that. And as it turned out, I won the first election, and I've won pretty much every one. Well, I have won every one since then. So.
Yeah, because you recently made history in being the longest serving mayor too.
Yes. But I tell people that's only because I'm old. I was a young kid when I got on. Now I'm an old man when I'm leaving. So
with a lot of experience, and you could tell us the stories of how things were then. Well, it's funny how it just happened and it ended up being a success.
Yeah.
And then you said you are a businessman, right? You have a business?
Yeah, I've owned some different businesses and community. In 1982, I went on my own. I'd worked for people for about 10 years, and we have an accounting service. We do lots of tax returns for people in the Sioux City area. So we've been really blessed as a community, and by this community, our family's been really, really blessed.
I'm very happy to hear that. I was also looking up that you are a majority owner of the Sioux City Bandits.
Not anymore. I got sick a few years ago, and I'm fine now, but I decided at that stage of my life that I couldn't leave my wife with a whole lot of different things that she has no desire to be part of. And she wasn't against it, but she'd been a mom that raised we were fortunate enough for her to be able to stay home and raise our kids and that. So she's not been involved in any of the businesses. And I just decided it was time to get out of some of those businesses. So we're down to just a couple. My son and I have a company together, and then the tax service and that, which I have a son-in-law in. So I'm fortunate to have family members, at least in the two companies we have left right now.
Oh, that's good that your legacy is also continuing.
Well, I hope they keep it going, you bet.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure you have been a great example for them too. That's awesome to hear. What future developments do you see in Sioux City?
Well, right now, it's really as slow as I've ever seen it. But, well, I won't say that. I've been through presidential election. But normally in a presidential election, it doesn't matter. I'm not talking politics. Nothing happens 6 months before and nothing happens really 6 months after. Now, we have a prospect coming to town next week that would look positive on paper. Well, hopefully, I guess it'll be 2 weeks. Looks positive on paper, and hopefully we'll be able to be successful in enticing them to come to Sioux City, because right now we're just not getting a lot of leads from any place. So it's a little tough.
Is there a reason why you think that is happening?
Well, I just don't. I mean, the uncertainty, whether you like tariffs or don't like tariffs, I'm not again going to get into politics, but the uncertainty, businesses like one thing, stability. They want to know what tomorrow brings. And when you have this up and down and back and forth that they can't really tell tomorrow what it's going to be, you're not going to see a lot of investments, I don't think. If it turns out that the tariffs are good, then we possibly can see some stuff, because they'll at least know that they're here to stay for a while.
And but there are like a few things that are going on, right?
There's always little things that are happening. When it's not like it's doom and gloom around here. I wouldn't say that at all. But it's just not. You'd like to get a company that would come in and invest 30, 40, 50 million, because the construction and that type of stuff spins off other things. So, we've got, Floyd Boulevard in particular. If you look at that area is filling up really nicely. There's a couple new strip malls going in. I guess one with 2 buildings and one with the Starbucks and the Jersey Mike's and that. Those things. McDonald's is going there. Telco Triad just built a beautiful building in there.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so there's always that ongoing stuff. The Raising Cane's is supposed to start, which my grandkids are very happy about.
Me too.
So it's finally going to start. And there's other things like that are continuing to happen. We're working with that older building next to the old KCAU building on 6th and Douglas that Steve Nelson, it sounds like, is going to convert that into apartments. And so there are some things happening, yes. Also,
me as a realtor, I can't help but, talk about like the housing market. But I feel like that also helps the housing market evolve.
Right. And we're working with the developer to finally develop it'll be a phase project, but quite a few lots on the north side, which we haven't done a real north side subdivision in an awfully long time. And I think there's some pent up demand there that they'll be reasonably successful with that right out of the box. So hopefully that'll get going yet this fall. It sounds like the dirt may get moved this fall.
Oh, that's great. I have a lot of clients asking to move there, and there's a lot of demand, but there's not a lot of inventory right now.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that we're not in the final stages of negotiation, but we are in negotiation, and it's been ongoing because it's a major project.
I also wanted to ask you, what initiatives have you implemented to support local businesses and economic growth?
Well, we have a lot of different programs through the state and through the city. If it's a major development, we do what they call tax rebates, so that we put them in a TIF district, and then we rebate a portion of the taxes back to them as an incentive. The state has some different credits that they can get depending on the size of the project and the wages that they're willing to pay. And, unfortunately, the state continues to limit our ability to do some of those things that really bother me, because I don't think the state government recognizes the value of cities, and that's where the economic activities occurring, whether we like it or not. We're becoming more urban rather than more rural, and we just can't seem to have any kind of commitment from the state in that area. And I'm being critical, but I'm tired of the state taking things away that are important to a community to grow that community, because in the end, the state wins on that more than the city does.
Especially with a place like Sioux City that is growing at a fast rate, I would say.
Yeah.
You see more and more people coming into Sioux City.
Right. And they pay income tax, and that doesn't go to the city. That goes to the state. So
right.
We get a little bit of real estate tax, but that we don't get much more than that. And, you know, even in housing, people say, well, you get all those taxes on houses. But the reality is the taxes that we collect on most houses go for services. It's not, you know, when 85% of your budget's salaries and most of it go to police and fire, that's difficult to say that we're gaining so much. A house doesn't pay as much probably, and a lot of houses don't pay as much in property taxes as what the police and fire cost to maintain that particular neighborhood. But that's not a reason not to build houses by any stretch of imagination. But I'm just saying is we just have so much budget for those safety issues that it's just tough to have anything left over. And that's fine as long as the community's growing and doing better and getting things done for the citizens.
So you do see like property taxes being an issue?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, you know, in Nebraska, they give the local communities other options to raise revenue. In the state of Iowa, it's pretty much still dependent upon property taxes. And then they have, you know, they're finally trying to address it. But why is my home tied to the farm behind me in real estate taxes? But it's been that way for 50 years, and it's hard to break that cycle. But land values going up should have no bearing on whether my house is going up or not, and vice versa. But it's an antiquated, outdated, long overdue system. But the legislature can't come to grips with how to solve the problem. I don't have an answer either, by the way. It's just a difficult phenomena that we have in Iowa.
And it makes me wonder if a lot of it has to do with how much things have changed in Sioux City with.
Well, I mean, Sioux City is a very property tax poor community in that we don't have the industrial and commercial base that Des Moines does with 42 or so insurance companies in their downtown area. I mean, if we had some of that type of industry where we were continuing to see more expansion and more development in commercial and industrial buildings, it would help dramatically. And the unfortunate part is based upon old maps, and it's not a knock against Sergeant Bluff, but the majority of our industrial base is in the Sergeant Bluff School District. So our own school district doesn't get to take advantage of all that industrial tax that comes into the community for the school.
I have noticed that.
So we have bought some land on the north side, and it'll be light industrial ground, and we're hopeful that will have a more positive impact, not only for the city, but for the school district as well.
It's really important to see that everything has a purpose of like why is being built in a certain area. I just think it's really important for everybody to understand that too.
Well, most people think that Sabre Communications and those type of businesses down there are a benefit to the school district, and they're not. But that's where the flat land is, and that's what you build industry in. Industrial prospects want flat land and quick and easy access to utilities, and so it's there's two problems now down there, and we own a lot of land that we have available for development. But sometimes if it's a major electrical user, we're up against the REC rates, which are 50% higher than Mid-America rates. So there's just forces that we can't control that sometimes work to our disadvantage.
Okay, that's very understandable. I want to ask you, what are your top priorities for the coming years for Sioux City?
Well, lately, I think infrastructure needs are critical. You know, we've got a very old city with very old water lines, very old sewer lines, very old streets, and I don't know that. I don't know how you solve that problem overnight. We're not going to. You drive around our downtown. I always tell people, people complain about the condition of the streets, which is reasonable, but then they complain when we try to fix them. And my argument has always been, sooner you complain to me because we're doing something than not doing something. And so you can live with a little construction. You and I'll have to drive around things but it's better to be trying to fix these things than it's not. So, I think that, and we need to continue to invest in quality of life. I think the Cone Park with the mountain bike and all those sort of amenities down there have had a real positive impact. I think you drive around, people are walking those trails, even down by the river. They're a long ways from any parking lot, so they're walking and riding bikes a long ways. I think those things are positive for the community. I think the riverfront, with all the additions we've made there, you see a lot of families down there on the weekends. That's kind of the thing you need to invest in if you're going to have corporations that's a concern for their employees. You're going to have to invest in, and I've always believed that. There was never a bike trail in our community forever, and we've started it with the riverfront years ago. And the reason I ran 12 years ago was because we hadn't built one since I left, and that bothered the heck out of me that we just stop doing everything. And my argument will always be that citizens will accept taxes as long as they see value in those taxes. They're not going to accept taxes if they don't see something that benefits them in a positive way. And so I think those type of amenities do impact in a positive way our citizens. And I think people are willing to pay for some of that stuff if they see the fruits of their labor. And so that's why I've always been a proponent of trails and parks and those sort of things.
I love the riverfront. I love seeing the gatherings of the families. And it's very positive too, because it encourages them to, keep a healthier lifestyle by, let's go for a walk, let's go for a run or on the bike, or, gathering their children to go at the playground there. I do think it's very positive.
Good.
Thank you so much for that.
I never am going to apologize for investing in those type of amenities because corporations look at that. Corporations can't, in this environment with the younger employees, can't just offer a job and hope that that's attractive to young families. There has to be amenities for the work and for the places where they locate. And we need to be doing those sort of things in order to attract different types of industry that we need in this community.
Like I was telling you earlier, I'm originally from California. So when I moved here, everybody's like, but what's in Iowa? What's in Iowa? And now I'm like, there's so much nature. It's beautiful in Iowa. What are you talking about?
How did you get here?
My mom.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just so many more opportunities here. It's so expensive over there.
Oh, yeah.
And at first I was a little upset about it, but now I'm really happy that all the opportunities that Sioux City has opened up for me, and I wouldn't move now.
Good for you.
Yeah. And seeing, like I was telling you, I love the riverfront. Seeing things like that happen make me feel like you're proud of the city.
Good for you. Thank you.
It's funny that we were talking about like construction, everything going on. One of the main things I always hear and read about are like potholes.
That's correct.
You too? Especially during winter. Oh, these potholes.
Well, the good news is we had a very mild winter, so that the potholes in the community are not nearly as bad as what they normally are. And we spend lots and lots of money fixing those. And I think they've gotten a pretty good head start on them this year. So I think that thankfully the winter wasn't as bad as it can be. Harsh winters are the worst because the salt from the streets get underneath those and pop them. And we just didn't have that much this year. So we'll be on top of that pretty good this year.
Yes. And another thing, this winter wasn't as harsh as other years, but I have noticed the city has been more on top of cleaning the streets in the winter too. Like when something does happen, right, or when there's a warning. I have noticed the city being out there and preparing the streets more.
We try.
What can leaders and professionals that are in real estate, what can we do to collaborate with the city?
Well, I think you guys do a great job. I mean, the real estate market has been good, and a lot of that has to do with realtors selling the community. I mean, if you're not pro Sioux City and people in your industry are not pro Sioux City, it's going to be difficult to sell anything as far as industry and those sort of things. And I guess being supportive of programs that you think are important. Everybody on Facebook can be negative about just about anything, and just that's our nature, human nature. But I think people can turn some of that around by being positive on Facebook as well. I think Facebook has value. I think it's good for like what you're doing here today. I think those things are very good, and it'll be interesting to see the remarks you get when you post this. you don't serve for as long as I have and not have naysayers, and I understand that because that's they have a right to. I mean, I wouldn't sit here today and tell you there aren't votes I wish I could have made differently. But anyway, it'll be interesting. But by and large, I think just having a positive attitude about the community helps more than anything.
That's true. That's very true. And I have one last question. Somebody told me to ask about this. Somebody told me to ask about an update on the, what's it called? The wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah. It's a major project, and, we have to do something. I'm hopeful in this environment that we're in right now. The one thing about not having a lot of construction happening, and not only in our area, but the broader area, geographical area, is the construction prices have been coming down quite a bit, actually. I mean, we're bidding jobs that we thought would cost $1.5 million, or they're coming in at $1 million. I think we bid one the other day that was supposed to be $1.6 million, and it came in at $1.2 million. Well, if you multiply that times the wastewater job, and it comes in 25% less than what we had hoped for, it's a huge number. $100 million less, which will have a really positive impact on the ratepayers. And so I'm hoping that we can begin to get some of that stuff bid, which we are, but get some of that stuff bid in this environment, because it could dramatically reduce the cost of that expansion.
Oh, okay.
It could be anywhere from $300 to $500 million before we're all done. But
wow.
Yeah, well, in a wastewater treatment plant, the city doesn't get to set the rules. The state and the feds set the rules, and we have to comply with them. So we have to do everything that they're telling us we have to do. And and unfortunately, it just seems like no matter what you do in that area, you're always going to be doing something. It's just the nature of, that waste, especially in the waste stream that we have with a lot of animal production and that type of stuff. It's really harsh on the system. And so unfortunately, stuff wears out a lot faster in our community than it probably does West Des Moines, that doesn't have anything like what we have.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because packing houses and the related industries that are attracted to close, their waste is very, very harsh. It just wears equipment out faster than if we were more of a bedroom community without those type of industries. Now, without those type of industries, we're not a community either. There's a give and take in that. So there's there's good and bad, and but if you have 7,000 people employed in those industries in our community or our area, you can't ignore that. So they're good for the community, and they create a lot of jobs in that. But there's always negative no matter what your industry is, and we just rebuild the plant and hope for the best.
Thank you very much for explaining that, and thank you very much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to add or tell to the public?
No.
I just like to ask that.
No, but thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for everybody watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share with anybody who loves Sioux City as much as we do. And thank you.